The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. He fasted for 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was hungry. The tempter approached and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command that these stones become loaves of bread." He said in reply, "It is written, one does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes forth from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and made him stand on the parapet of the temple and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and with their hands they will support you, lest you dash your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "Again it is written, you shall not put the Lord your God to the test." Then the devil took him up to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in their magnificence. And he said to him, "All these I shall give to you, if you will prostrate yourself and worship me." At this Jesus said to him, "Get away, Satan. It is written, the Lord your God shall you worship, and him alone shall you serve." Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered to him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Before I get too far, I want to mention something about our season of Lent. The church asks us to have fewer decorations and not flowers and things like that, and for the music to be a little bit more somber, a little bit more simple, and it seemed like it's a good time for us to practice some of the Latin responses. I'm not great at Latin by any means. I'm good at getting good grades in language classes, but not actually holding on to it to be able to use it. But the church asks us to learn. Vatican II documents ask us to know the parts for the people in Latin. That's part of our heritage. And something that reminds me of, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I was able to be with my parents in Germany. We were visiting some of the cities where my parents' families came from. And we were in an ancient city in Germany, and I found a schedule that said that this one church would have an English Mass in the afternoon, and we went there to check, and no, it was canceled that day for some reason, but I'm a priest, I had my Mass kit, that's okay. But as we were discussing, by way of my dad's Polish to the German man who only knew Polish and German, we were able to get something arranged. And it was a beautiful time. It was in the late afternoon, and it was my parents, these two men, and myself in this old church. And it was something beautiful, because I don't know really any German at all. They didn't know any English, and that was okay. I kept my homily short because I couldn't understand, but other than that, they knew exactly what was going on. And as I started, I realized, you know what, I think just knowing them, I get the feeling from what I can tell about them is that these are believers. They want to be here. They weren't, fine, I have to show up. But no, they wanted to be here. So I figured they probably know some of these Latin parts. So I started the Sanctus and the Agnus Dei, and in Latin started chanting it, and they were able to pick up right away. And I was able to sing in praise of God with these two men who I just met that day and have not seen since, but they were my brothers in Christ. It was something beautiful, a moment of unity there. Our readings here today, especially the first reading, there's so much to be pondered in here. I'm only going to talk about part of it. There's really multiple talks, multiple homilies can be based off of this. I find it fascinating how the way that the serpent tempted Eve, even if we could debate whether or not, was it a real tree? Was it is this just a symbol? Was he really a serpent? Is that just a symbol? That part doesn't matter as much, because the way he's describing this temptation sounds completely real to me. And that's the important part. I think all of us can fall into this pattern so easily. So, the serpent comes to the woman and asks, "Did God really tell you not to eat from any of the trees of the garden?" First, don't talk to the serpent. That's not a good way to do it. That was Eve's first fault. Don't have a dialogue with the devil. That's not going to end well. But she did. And the devil starts by asking something he knows full well is false, but it has an element of truth, but it's exaggerated just to kind of get the attention and get a reaction out of her. And so she responds, "We may eat of the fruit of the tree in the garden. It is only about the fruit of the tree in the middle of the garden that God said, 'You shall not eat it or even touch it, lest you die.'" And then the serpent comes back with a lie, but it may have some truth to it as well. Any good lie, for it to be believed, has to have some element of truth to it. That's the bait on the hook. He says, "You certainly will not die." It's possible in the Hebrew that this could be the words kind of rearranged to, "You will not certainly die," as in, well, you might die, but you might not. Look at the tree, how wonderful it is. Take your chance. And then this, I think, is the key part. He's putting in some doubt about God's goodness in the heart and mind of Eve, and probably Adam, who it sounds like was standing nearby. The serpent says, "No, God knows well that the moment you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like gods, who know what is good and what is evil." There's something very attractive about it, and the serpent's kind of saying, you know what? God told you not to eat of it because he's afraid of what will happen if you do. He's jealous. He doesn't want you to be like him. He wants to keep this great thing for himself. He's holding out on you. You better just take it yourself. He's not going to give it to you, and you deserve it. So appealing to pride and vanity, but also this great doubt. Is God really good? Would a good God say, "Don't do that"? Look how wonderful that looks. And Eve accepted it. The next thing we hear is that the woman saw the tree was good for food, pleasing to the eyes, and desirable for gaining wisdom. You could look at those three elements as three parts of our human nature. And it appeals to all three parts of our human nature. And she's attracted to it. And she accepts the deep lie that she can't trust God. He's not good, that she needs to take it herself. And so she does. She takes the fruit. Something that I find fascinating and sad and terrible and ironic is that the devil managed to trick her to take what we find out later that God was wanting to give her anyways at the right time. The devil persuaded Eve to steal what was going to be a gift. I think of it similar to what some of you may have done. You can imagine a kid knowing where the Christmas presents are hidden, and a week or two before Christmas, mom's not around, dad's not around, goes around, finds it, gets his present, you're like, yep, I know what it is. And he with joy, glee, opens it up, and he gets this great toy that he's been waiting for a long time. It's not going to last very long, though. Because even a child, I think, would recognize pretty quickly that this is stolen. He stole it. His toy he's playing with stolen goods. Yeah, the toy itself is still good, but it's kind of cloaked with this, or tainted with this sin. He stole it. And mom or dad, when they find out, they're going to be disappointed. They may be angry. But in reflection, they're going to be mostly disappointed because they wanted to give their child a great gift. And they lost that opportunity. And their child was not able to receive this great gift. He snuck in and stole it before it was the right time. That's what happened here. If you think about it, many times Jesus in the New Testament, and as he's talking, he mentions many ways in mysterious ways. Part of what his plan was that he would come to earth, he would die, rise, so that we would be free from sin, that he would overcome the curse of death, that we may have everlasting life with him. He says that he's going to his Father. He's going to prepare a place for us. And then in his Father's mansion, there are many rooms for us. It's a great banquet. He's preparing all of this. He desires us to be with him in heaven. And as you go a little further into the theology, you recognize, well, if God is a holy trinity, this beautiful, energetic exchange of life and love and knowledge of each other between them, Jesus Christ came that we may be invited into that family of love and life. God's plan is for us to be happy with him in eternity in that great exchange of love of the Holy Trinity. At times we even call it in our tradition theosis or divinization. And you have to understand it. We don't mean it in the way that the Mormon church does, where you become a god and you have your own planet and all that. No. But ancient saints have talked about how Jesus came and became man so that we may become gods. And not gods like, oh, we're all going to have our own kingdoms and all that, but we're so close and part of the divine family of the Holy Trinity that we can share in that divinity as well. That's what God's plan is for us. And the devil persuaded Eve to reject that so she could have a bite of fruit. He persuaded her to reject that so that she could steal part of what was going to be given the human race anyways. And so all the rest of Scripture, all the rest of the Old Testament is how God was trying to bring his people back and prepare them for the third chapter, which is basically the Gospels, that Jesus came and he recreated the original plan through his obedience and his faithfulness. One other thing I want to talk about, because as Deacon mentioned, we're having our end-of-life conference here in 2 weeks, Saturday, March 7th at 9:30 in the morning until about 3:30. We'll be in the Paris Center. You're all very invited. It's free. We're taking care of all of the costs. But as a way of reflecting on our own death, preparing for our own death or the death of those around us so we know in advance what to think about and how to make decisions rather than in the middle of a crisis. The very first talk is going to be from me. I want to bring some reflections on what does it mean that we're going to die, some spiritual sort of application for everybody. And so this is going to be our parish Lenten mission. So if nothing else, I invite you to come to that first talk. It'll be about 45 minutes or so. You could leave after that, that's fine. But I encourage you to come just for that part, if nothing else. And then there will be a bunch of other speakers, lawyers, financial planner. I think we have a doctor from a Catholic hospice talking about medical ethics at the end of life. When do you withdraw medicine or ventilators, and how do you decide, and that kind of stuff. There'll be a lot of other things, and I'm hoping it can be a huge blessing. I bring this up for I wanted to do this for a couple reasons. One, we're all going to die, and it makes it a whole lot better if we're prepared than not. Just as a quick question, how many of you have some sort of will, power of attorney, funeral plan, some sort of something? Can I see a show of hands? How many of you have something? Okay, that's pretty good. So about half, maybe, a little bit more than last night. The rest of you seem to have believed the devil here. You certainly will not die. So I guess you don't need to worry about it. But it would still be a good practice anyways, just in case you're wrong or deceived. Let me share two stories of some things that happened in my family. You're like, it could have been better. One was when my grandfather passed away, and he was 87. Some things were prepared, but not everything. So we went to the mortuary, and the nice man was explaining some things, and we were making some decisions as the family. And there was one point where they asked, would you like flowers? Well, that's a fair question. And it was a question that none of us had thought of at all. And he helpfully, I have a binder with a bunch of pictures of beautiful flower arrangements that we can arrange for you and get. And they're all beautiful and really big, really expensive. And we could get those. And we start talking about, maybe that one, maybe that one. And then something occurred to me that I felt like we were, not maliciously, but almost pressured into discussing what kind of flowers to get for Grandpa. Because if you don't get flowers, does that mean we don't love him? I'm like, well, we better get flowers. And so partway through, I spoke up to everyone and said, hey, remember, we're talking about Grandpa. I'm pretty sure that if he were here right now, he would say something like, oh, don't bother with flowers. They're all going to die. It's just a waste of money. And the whole family looked at it, and you're like, yep, that's Grandpa. Okay. Now, they still decided to get the flowers. Fine. But had Grandpa made that clear, it could have written down, like, no, I don't need flowers. You're like, okay. So if we don't do flowers, okay. If we want to get flowers, also okay. It's now up to us. It's not like, okay, how much do we love him? Are we going to get the little flowers? Are we going to get the big flowers? Like, no, it's Grandpa. We could get a nice little bouquet from the store, and for however much that is, much smaller, and that would be perfectly fine. And no one would think anything less of it, and that's perfectly okay with him. The second one was actually his sister. She very faithful. She died in the, mid-90s. She was married, I think, 72 years or something like that. It was a long, beautiful marriage. Very faithful Catholic, but her children were not. And she told her children that she just wanted a simple funeral. She didn't want a big, fancy thing. Okay. That means multiple things to different people, doesn't it? I'm pretty sure for her, she meant a simple mass. You don't need to do anything fancy, and a little reception. That's great. The way they understood it was, great, we'll just have immediate children and their wives, no one else, and we'll have the priest, we'll just have him at the cemetery, place her in the ground, say some prayers, we go for lunch, done. No mass. We're not going to invite the other part of the family that wanted to come. Like, nope, she said small, so you're not invited. And people were hurt and sad because this was someone they loved and they wanted to go to her funeral. And they didn't really even have a funeral mass for her. And as Catholics, we should recognize there's no greater prayer that we have than the prayer of Jesus Christ to his Father that he made at the Last Supper and on Calvary and is represented at every Mass. It's the greatest prayer we can have for those who have died. Well, I was a priest at the time, so I made sure I was going to do a funeral mass for my great aunt the same day and probably about the same time that they were at the cemetery in California. I could do that. But it could have been better if she was a little bit more clear. One of the things that we're going to have for the conference, a bunch of folders with a bunch of information in it, including just a one-page funeral plan. And so you could give it to your perhaps non-practicing grown children and say, here, all you have to do is take this to the church and select a date. Make sure I have a mass, or I'll haunt you from the grave. Make it happen. You have no excuse. It's done. And these other things, and we'll be talking about a lot, but just to mentally prepare and overcoming that, the part that just doesn't like to talk about death, I'll talk about later. It helps, though, if you say, look, I don't want to be on a machine for the rest of my life, or look, this stuff here, I have a will, I've already decided where it is, or I've asked so-and-so to help with this process, or I would really love this song to be at my funeral mass. I would love it, or whatever those things are, so that the people have some knowledge and it makes it easier for them to prepare. And then you could also say, look, this is my plan, this is what I would like. I know things change, so if it doesn't apply, do the best you can. This is my general wish. But if you have someone as well who you could trust, say, okay, I trust you to override my plan if there's something that I didn't foresee. Can you do that for me? I trust you to make good decisions. You know me. Here's basically my general intentions. Can you make it work with whatever the situation is? That's the ideal. So I encourage all of you, if we could get the number of people that have some plans for the funeral, some wills, some basic information so that the family doesn't have to go around searching the internet to find your bank login or whatever. If you have some of that, that can be a huge gift to your family. I encourage you, whatever age you are, to seriously consider it and seriously coming to the conference. There are flyers. I have a flyer. I think there's a flyer in the pocket there. It's just a simple black and white. We had fancy color, but we ran out after the first Mass last night, so it was great. But There's a QR code on there. You can scan there, just do a quick RSVP. It's completely free. If you don't RSVP in time, that's okay. You can still show up. There will be registration in the morning. But I invite you really to consider coming. There will be a free lunch. You could select a couple options on there as well. And then to come and make this as an important part of your Lenten preparation. And I hope they can be a blessing for everyone. We'll have some of the material folders. We're going to have extras for afterwards if you're not able to come. But I invite you to consider some of these things so that you are prepared a little bit more for what is coming, our death. But we're also Christians, and so we know that death is not the end, that there's resurrection, that there's Easter to come.